Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, sun's out, guns out in Seattle. Latest on a recent shooting in Belltown. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline. The Supreme Court today stayed a lower court order that blocked the Trump administration from deporting roughly 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The decision is a near-term victory for President Donald Trump as he moves to crack down on border security and immigration priorities in his second term, according to Fox News. The order stays for now a lower court ruling that halted the plans to terminate it. Protections for some migrants living in the U.S., which allows individuals to live and work in the U.S. legally if they cannot work safely in their home country due to a disaster. Now, here's the thing right now, guys. Regarding this order specifically and what is allowing to happen, what is going on here, basically means that you can deport 500,000 people that Joe Biden let into the country. Now, as we discussed this time and time again, I found something interesting about this one. It was a 7-2 decision, which means Alana Kagan actually went along with the conservative justices, which is interesting. So we're getting a sense of our ideologues on the court. And what that means is basically, and let's be balanced about this for a second, you have Clarence Thomas and, I don't know, who are we going to, not Gorsuch. Well, basically, you've got Clarence Thomas over on one side. He's almost always going to go with the conservative route, and usually he has the goods to back it up, by the way. I happen to like his decisions. On the other side, you've got Ketanji Brown Jackson, who I hate to do this. I really hate to do this. But everything we now know about Joe Biden, yeah, the Senate confirmed her. But at the same time, did Joe Biden actually nominate her to the court? Was it Joe Biden or was it Jill Biden? Was it Hunter Biden? Who is actually running the show over there? Let's not forget, it was during her announcement that Joe Biden comes out and says, America can be summed up in a single word. That was at that event, guys. That was when he announced Ketanji Brown Jackson. So her and Sonia Sotomayor are always going to be on the left. But I will say is that for the rest of the court, it seems like you actually have a more balanced court, which means you have them go along with things that make sense. Look, there are things Amy Coney Barrett does that I don't agree with. There are things Gorsuch does that I don't agree with. There's a lot of things that Roberts does that I don't agree with. And yet, anytime they do something the left doesn't agree with, it's, those conservative justices, right? Now, the thing here is Jackson said that in their view, the court plainly botched its assessment and failed to properly weigh the devastating consequences of allowing the government to upend the lives and livelihoods of nearly 500,000 non-citizens while their legal claims are pending. While it is apparent that the government seeks a stay to enable it to inflict the maximum pre-decision damage, court-ordered stays exist to minimize, not maximize, harm to litigating parties. The TPS program is typically expanded to illegal immigrants in the U.S. on 18-month increments, most recently under the Biden administration towards the end of his presidency. But they were upended by the Trump administration in February when the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem attempted to end protections for a specific group of Venezuelan nationals, arguing that they were not in the national interest. So here's where Ketanji Brown Jackson argument falls apart. We can pretty much kick out anybody who's here illegally at any time we want. We really can. And I know a lot of people are going to say, they have rights. Yeah, not really after 9/11, they don't. They really don't. Ever since we did all the stuff in response to 9/11, there may have been rights beforehand. We have laws that contradict those, which is why this is such a complicated thing. However, at the end of the day, once again, I'm going to keep banging this drum. If you guys want to codify some of this stuff, then we can address that through Congress, through legislation. Now, these liberal justices are going to fight the Trump administration on anything they do. But at the same time, wouldn't it be nice if Congress did a few laws to maybe balance this out so that way they don't have as much ammo? The problem is there's a lot of things that contradict each other in federal law right now. So this is the kind of stuff that we need Congress to take action on. Congress makes laws, and I don't know what Congress is doing right now. Oh, wait, they're on vacation this week. Later in the show, we're going to talk about the DOGE cuts. That's something we need Congress to take action on if we want them to remain permanent. Now, why are we so intent on getting these illegals out of the U.S.? Fox 5 has a story for us.
Howard County Detention Center recently released a convicted rapist and illegal immigrant despite ICE formally requesting the suspect remain detained.
And tonight, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has more on sanctuary policies preventing local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE under any circumstances.
Yeah, in most Maryland jurisdictions, for cases like these, local detention centers will hand inmates over to federal immigration agents. But in Howard County, there's no exceptions for working with ICE, even for a convicted rapist. Convicted of sexually abusing a minor, court documents claim 20-year-old Alex Flores Arce, a Honduran national living in the country illegally, repeatedly hit his girlfriend when she declined sex. In one instance, locking her in a car, then violently raping her in a public parking lot in Ellicott City. In April, Flores Arce pleading guilty to the crime and sentenced to 15 years behind bars, but a circuit court judge suspending the majority of that sentence, allowing for his immediate release. Howard County letting him walk free, refusing to honor a detainer request from ICE.
This is something that's been like a reoccurring thing happening in Howard County. We put detainers on egregious criminals that are in their custody, and they continue just to release them.
ICE's Baltimore Field Office Director Nikita Baker calling it par for the course due to a sanctuary policy passed by Howard County's council in 2020, barring all local cooperation with federal immigration agents, no matter the crime committed.
Well, I have a public safety question on a separate issue.
At a press conference this afternoon, Fox 45 attempting to ask County Executive Calvin Ball about that legislation.
A convicted rapist was recently released back into the community. Would you urge the council to revise or review current immigration policies allowing that to happen?
I'm really going to respectfully ask that we stay on topic for this great news.
Ball declining an interview. Instead, his office sending a statement, noting in 2022, voters codified the Liberty Act, meaning any amendments would require new legislation to be introduced. But Ball not addressing if he would support such action. Meanwhile, Baker arguing residents likely didn't have cases like these in mind when they allowed the policy to pass.
I don't think they were aware that there were no exceptions.
A month after his release, Flores Arce back in court accused of violating his parole and picked up by ICE agents outside.
They didn't let us know that they were releasing him that day, but we just happened to be there just to catch him when he got released.
Baker relieved he's now off the streets, but says allowing her agents to pick him up behind bars would have cost less manpower, tax dollars, and risk to public safety.
We want to get the politics out of it. We just want to make sure that the citizens of Maryland are safe.
How many times have we heard a story like this, where because of these idiot sanctuary laws, now you basically have to go catch a criminal again? We had it here in Washington, where a bunch of officers were actually injured in one of these instances because they basically released the guy into the parking lot and ICE was waiting for him, and then this guy attacked the ICE agents as opposed to just transferring him over. In another example of this sanctuary state stupidity, we have the ongoing trial of Raul Benitez Santana, the illegal immigrant who was driving at over 112 miles per hour while drunk and high in the middle of the night, drove into the shoulder. His own attorney admits all this, so I'm not saying alleged anymore. I'm not. I know he hasn't been convicted yet, but his own attorney said all of this, and we played the recording. So he kills Trooper Gadd, who's parked there in a speed trap. And Jeremy Harris from Como News has been doing a great job covering this trial. I believe they're there every single day. Well, there was a weird court filing today. Maybe you guys have something to weigh in on this one. Emily Hancock and Tiffany Mecca, who are the public defenders for Raul Benitez Santana, they have submitted social media posts to the judge because they are upset with people criticizing them and their clients online. Now, hang on a second. It'd be one thing if they said, Ari Hoffman, local media guy, he's criticizing us and he's tampered with the jury pool. He's contaminated the jury pool with his social media, right? That'd be one thing. It'd be one thing if they said Jonathan Cho, Brandy Cruz, right? Como News. I would get that. That's not what they're doing. They're sharing posts from Cat Turd. They're sharing posts of random people, sharing Donald Trump posts, not about him signing the executive order on illegal immigrants, but about him signing things on Make America Healthy Again? These lawyers suck. I'm not really sure what direction they're going in with this. My favorite one was they shared a post about AI-generated Ben & Jerry's ice cream flavors about free Palestine. What is the case you're trying to make? That the internet's a strange place? Because then you made it really, really well, but you're not making the case that this has somehow affected your client. I have the entire submission here. I'm looking through it. And when I saw the Donald Trump picture of him holding up the executive order with his signature on it, I expected it to be, oh, he's got Kristi Noem there and it's the anti-illegal immigrant one. No, it's got Robert Kennedy standing next to him. It's got RFK Jr. standing there. This has nothing to do with illegal immigration. Why is the left like this? Elon Musk actually said something very, very wise today when he was doing his farewell to DOGE party in the Oval Office.
I think the fundamental moral flaw of the left is empathy for the criminals and not empathy for the victims. Empathy for the criminals, but not empathy for the victims.
I completely agree. Chris Cuomo, who I always forget he's still on News Nation or whatever it is that he does now. Chris Cuomo was literally saying last night, I'm not pulling the clip because it was so ridiculous, was literally saying last night that everybody's getting all upset about illegal immigrants just because of the Laken Riley case. How many hundreds, if not thousands, of these cases have we seen? And here's the worst part. Even though we know that the border is almost completely closed at this point and secure at this point, you still have a ton of these illegal immigrants in the U.S. who are still committing crimes and still creating problems. This isn't going to go away. Unfortunately, there's going to be more cases like this, which is absolutely horrifying. And the left is going to keep sticking up for them. This clip was going around the interwebs. I'm not even sure who it was sourced from originally. Otherwise, I'd give them credit. There's an old lady from Martha's Vineyard who's being interviewed by the local news about the 40 illegal immigrants who were rounded up in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket and other places, Hyannis out there in Massachusetts. Here's what she said.
I think it could be any of us next.
Martha's Vineyard resident Jane Catch held a sign yesterday at the Vineyard Haven terminal warning visitors.
The island has a history of supporting people who are different, supporting immigrants. Everyone in this country is entitled to due process, whether they have paperwork or they don't.
So, a couple things to break down here. Number one, aren't you guys the ones who the second Ron DeSantis flew a whole bunch of illegal immigrants out to your little island, you guys shipped them on a bus and said, get out of our town? If you were so virtuous, you would say, stay. Here's my guest room. Can I hire you for a job? But no, you loaded them on a bus and shipped them right out, which shows as much as you have empathy for the criminals or whoever they are, you actually don't. You're a bunch of hypocrites. But this lady's trying to make it seem like anybody could be rounded up at any time. You know, there's a joke I like to make, and perhaps it's in poor taste, but the synagogue structure in Seward Park is there's an Ashkenazic, which means Eastern European, Russian Jew synagogue across the street from one of our Sephardic brethren, which is from Rhodes, Middle East countries, Turkey, those kind of places. So they look a little different than us, some of them. They're not worried about getting rounded up. They're here illegally. They've been here for generations. But there is this panic on the left of anybody who looks a little different is going to get rounded up. No, did they commit crimes or did they not commit crimes? This lady's trying to make it sound like it could happen to anybody, at any point, anywhere. Ari Hoffman, who is one of the palest people on this earth, is going to get deported at any time. No, because thank God I haven't committed any crimes. Right? We are going after the criminals. And the argument I consistently have with people on the left who go, well, what about people who just came here to work legally? I go, okay, where do you draw the line? Do you draw the line at the rapists? Do you draw the line at the murderers? Do you draw the line at the child rapists, the child murderers, the assault ones, the drug dealers? Where do you draw the line? Because still coming to this country illegally is a crime. So where do you draw the line? And then I got another question for that person afterwards, if they manage to answer it, which usually they can't. I say, fine, are you Congress? Because if you're not Congress, you don't get to make the law. Are you a judge? Because you don't get to make the law either. You may get to interpret the law. You don't get to actually make the law. So we can have these conversations all day long, but at the end of the day, the laws that they broke are already established laws. So basically you're saying, well, I like some laws and I don't like some other laws. Which other ones? Hey, look, I don't want to pay taxes, but I do that. That's a discussion you get into when now all of a sudden, who's the ones who are subverting democracy? You want to weigh in on this? Give me your thoughts. Give us a call at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from our friend Bennett. Bennett, what's going on, man?
Hi, the fact-checking department is in, so I had a little bit of catching up to do since the big riot outside City Hall on Thursday or Tuesday. But you had said something about, the DSA tweeted out a statement in support of Elias Rodriguez, the D.C. senator, and they said,
I said, wait, hang on. I said the DSA caucus had sent it out, if I recall correctly. What I said was, hang on, let's be clear here, Bennett. We can go check the podcast if you want, and I'm sure you will. But if I'm not mistaken, I read it from the DSA caucus, which I said is no different than saying the Democrat caucus, if I remember correctly, is what I said.
At one point you said that, but at multiple points you said the DSA tweeted a statement in support of Elias Rodriguez. So I wanted to make absolutely clear that did not actually happen.
Well, let me ask you a question. Has the DSA condemned the statement?
Yes, they put out a statement the same day saying we condemn the killing of the D.C.
They
Jews
did.
Who were innocent.
Bennett, can you do me a favor? No, hang on. Can you send that to me, please? Because I have not seen that. Because here's something else. I reached out to Alexis Mercedes Rink, who is the council member who was endorsed by the DSA. And we still haven't heard back from them. I asked them if she would condemn it, and I haven't heard back from them at all.
Well, you and all of your listeners can Google DSA Liberation Caucus and Elias Rodriguez right now. All the stories that come up will be saying this is not the DSA that put out this statement. This is a group of fringe members. Now, because they're dues-paying members, the DSA has no legal authority to kick them out. But it's not the DSA that put the statement out.
You can't kick out dues-paying members who support terrorism and murder?
It was a fringe group. It was not the DSA.
I thought you just said they pay membership.
Well, but they're a fringe group within the DSA.
But they're hang on.
Look,
so they're in the DSA, right?
Okay, so if I hang a banner over the I-5, and if I'm a dues-paying member of the Chihuly Glass Museum, which I am, it would be like you saying the Chihuly Glass Museum put a banner over I-5. No, they didn't.
Well, this is a little different. They're using the logo. So you know what this is like, Bennett? Here, I'll draw a comparison that I think even you will like, okay? You remember when the Starbucks the workers' union was saying things about Israel and Palestine, and Starbucks said, stop using our trademark, stop using our logos, stop using our name? You remember that? And there was a whole fight over it?
Yeah, that's an excellent comparison because the DSA is saying this is a subgroup using our name without permission, but a lot of conservatives and media have been incorrectly saying.
So what I'm saying is, I'm agreeing with you, Bennett. I'm agreeing with you right now. Hang on, back down, easy boy, easy. Okay, I'm agreeing with you right now. But then I'm gonna go look during the commercial break and see if I can mention it later in the show and see what the DSA actually said. That I'm more disappointed at people like AOC, who haven't condemned the statement, who are known to be DSA members. They should loudly and vocally. You know who I have a lot of respect for? Richie Torres. Richie Torres actually quit the DSA when he saw that the DSA were the ones who were running the pro-Hamas protests right after October 7th in New York and elsewhere, and that made him walk away. And that actually made him become a more staunch supporter of Israel. And I kind of got to wonder why so many other people, they don't have to become supporters of Israel. Just like I'm not asking you to become one, Bennett. I know how you feel about these things. But what I am saying is, don't you think more people should have walked away from the DSA when they were doing that?
But the DSA did put out a statement condemning the killings. I'm telling you and all your listeners.
No. You're talking about the DSA one. You're talking about
the
You're talking about the DC one. What I'm saying is, after October 7th, they were the ones running the rallies that were using the Hamas paragliders in their marketing. And that's what they lost. That's how they lost Richie Torres. That's how they lost people like, I don't know if John Fetterman was actually in the group, but that's how people like that walked away from that group, because this is what this group has done in the past.
Well, you're thinking of a different group. It was BLM Chicago that had a flyer that had one of the paragliders on it. And the next day they said, we did not mean to do this. We didn't mean for what that implied.
They also had it, Bennett. There was a lot of groups that did it. In fact, I have a list somewhere if I go way back when. But I do appreciate the conversation, as always, do appreciate the fact-checking, and do appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Mike in Everett. Mike, what's up?
So I was just kind of scrambling through my brain about the Afrikaners who appeal for asylum, and they're like the worst people on earth. But we have child rapists that, my God, you better get your hands off. I just don't. There's no.
You're saying the way that the Democrats portray the Afrikaners versus the way the Democrats. Wait, you got to turn off your radio there.
Oh, it's off.
Okay, all right.
Okay, all right. So no. What I'm saying is they have. It's like they have no brain.
Okay, you got to turn down that radio there, Mike, because I'm hearing myself in the echo. But do appreciate the call. Appreciate what you're saying. Do appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues. Sun's out, guns are out. Latest shooting in Seattle just a couple hours ago. And I'm getting all the details from our friend Andrea Suarez. We'll give you the latest when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, suns are out, guns are out. So that's how bad it is in Seattle. Looks like violence has gone through the roof, and we got some breaking news on a shooting that just happened a short time ago.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
So actually, we were getting a lot of the details from our friend Andrea Suarez over at We Heart Seattle. That's an area she works frequently cleaning up all the homeless mess and trying to get people off the streets, doing a much better job than anybody else in homeless. She's not even in Homeless Inc. I shouldn't even loop her in with them. She actually gets people help, gets people treatment. Homeless Inc., I'm not sure what they do. All it seems that they do is take our taxpayer money. But Andrea Suarez from We Heart Seattle posted about an hour ago at 12:45 there was an officer-involved shooting on 3rd and Battery in Belltown. Cops tell me that there was a known drug dealer who fled the cops. The suspect was taken away alive in an ambulance. Several blocks are still shut down. No witnesses have come forward yet. Then she did a follow-up post shortly thereafter saying new details coming in. Drug dealer eventually surrendered with a gun in his hand. Shots were fired during pursuit, according to reports. Suspect was treated for other potential injuries. Investigation is still active. What do you know? Andrea's ahead of the curve. This is what we got from the Seattle Police blotter, 5 minutes before we went on air, Mike? Seattle Police detectives and the Force Investigation Team are on scene of an SPD officer-involved shooting in Belltown this afternoon. On May 30th at about 12:30 p.m., patrol officers witnessed a man dealing drugs near 2nd Avenue and Battery Street. Is that one of the soda areas, right? You can't deal drugs over there? The man ran from police, and they chased him on foot. During the foot pursuit, the man drew a handgun, and the officer discharged his department firearm at the armed suspect. Timeout. You know what's going to happen here? The Oversight Committee, run by what's-his-face, Tamer the pro-Hamas guy, is going to come out and say, well, he didn't fire at you. Why'd you fire at him? Just watch. Just watch. The suspect was not struck by gunfire, and the officers arrested him shortly after. No officers were injured. Police recovered the suspect's gun at the scene. Seattle Fire Department arrived on scene and evaluated the suspect for reported chest pains. Well, yeah, you're running after a while. I get chest pains, too. I'm kind of out of shape. Police will book him into King County Jail when released from the hospital. They're investigating the use of force. Representatives from the Office of Police Accountability. There it is, right there. Boom. I said it, and I hadn't even read this yet. Circumstances leading up to the shooting are under investigation. All the stuff they have to put in there because the left is going to go bonkers crazy because a firearm was discharged, and they're not going to ask this question. How'd the drug dealer get the gun? I thought we have all these gun laws that are going to keep us safer. How'd the drug dealer get the gun? Just asking that very, very simple question. See, this is the problem, my friends. The weather outside is getting way nicer, which means the violence is going to go up, which is unfortunate because more people are outside, including the drug dealers. The Walgreens near my house, the one on Rainier Avenue, and I know a lot of you are saying, why would you go to the one on Rainier Avenue? Well, everything else is closed. One Rite Aid is turned into a homeless help center. The other one's just empty, and they're selling God knows what in the parking lot. So there's a Walgreens, and we go to the Walgreens. And what happens every time we're going through the drive-thru of the Walgreens? What happens is, right outside of it used to be a chop shop. And by the way, this used to be a nice area. There was a Tully's Coffee on the corner. That's where you would go have meetings. Not anymore. Nobody wants to go over there at all. So what happens is right behind the Walgreens, it was a chop shop for a while. Now it looks like a whole drug scene has developed over there. And, you know, in the 90s, we were given the impression that drug dealers were cool or whatever it was. They just look slick and they look like dangerous and they look like they dress cool. These guys look like they are really, really old. Like they may still be the same drug dealers and they're not doing as well as they used to. And they've got these girls working for them. I don't think it's prostitution. I think they're actually they're the mules who are taking the drugs to the cars from the drug dealers so the drug dealers don't have to get up. The drug dealers were barbecuing out front of the Walgreens while the younger girls are the ones who are going to take the fall for them. That's the insanity we're seeing in Seattle now. In fact, they were barbecuing on the sidewalk. I saw them setting up a charcoal coal, one of those portable grill deals, the tiny ones that you get for like when you go in the park and you go, I can throw it away afterwards. I don't really need this thing. Yeah, one of those. That's what's going on behind the Walgreens on Rainier Avenue. This is only going to get worse throughout the summer, despite whatever Bruce Harrell says. By the way, Mike, I just take you back. Remember like a week ago, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, where our friends over at Seattle Homicide were talking about how there hadn't been a shooting in X amount of days. And we said, well, broke that streak. Remember, I said, Bruce Harrell said the same thing. I said, now that he said it, all of a sudden, watch the crimes go up. The rest of the show, we've got more true crime stories for you because there's so much happening. And we'll also talk about graffiti season. Yes, there's now graffiti season. But that's for later in the show, because when we come back, my friends, Elon Musk is leaving the administration and leaving DOGE. Does this mean this is the end of DOGE or just the beginning? We'll give you details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Just before we get too deep into the swamp, I want to remind everybody that this weekend we have the Roy Pioneer Rodeo. That's on Saturday and Sunday. And guess what? They have mutton busting. If you don't know what that is, you got to come out to the rodeo and learn, because somebody told me about this, and it is the craziest thing I've ever seen, and it's amazing. Doors open at 11 a.m. Show starts at 1:30. Mike, Zach, and Mr. KVI will be there on Saturday. I'll be there on Sunday along with Phil and Zach from the Morning Ride. Also be cranking the Hank with our friends over at 101.5 Hank FM. That's right, my friends. Check out the Roy Pioneer Rodeo this weekend. All the information is over on their Facebook page. I'm excited for this. I like that kind of stuff. In fact, I think I will wear my boots and my hat, and I will maybe even pull out the shirt and the jeans and the belt. I think I will go full cowboy for this.
Oh, you're going to go full cosplay. I love
Full
it.
cosplay. That's right.
I love it.
For the city boy that I am. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Urban cowboy, you might say.
I'm excited. There's going to be a little bit of a after party at the Roy Roundup after the rodeo on Saturday, and that'll be fun for some post funk. I think they've got like food specials and whatnot. So it's going to be a fun time.
Excellent, fantastic. If you
Fun times in Roy.
Exactly. And if you want tips on riding mechanical bulls, I owned one for years as part of the Bounce House Company. I could tell you how to stay on those suckers. All right, moving on to government waste. Let's talk about DOGE for a minute here. So we have Elon Musk today is leaving the administration. I love how the left tried to make this, there's a rift with Trump. No, Elon Musk has the same frustration we do. Is you're going through all this waste in the federal government, and it's so overwhelming that there's only so much you could do in 130 days. Do I wish they had cut more? Absolutely. So does Elon Musk. But you got Donald Trump handing him a gold key to the White House as a thank you. This doesn't seem like there's a lot of rift going on here. Here's some of the stuff Elon Musk said they found.
It's going through really millions of line items and saying just each one of them makes sense, what does not make sense. Obviously, at times when you cut expenses, those who are receiving the money, whether they're receiving that money legitimately or not, they do complain. And you're not going to hear someone confessing that they received money inappropriately. Never. They're going to always say that they received money appropriately for an important cause. Naturally, that's what you'd expect. So we just have to. It's just a lot of work going through the vast expenses of the federal government and just really asking questions. What's this money for? Are you sure it's actually being used well? Many times we can't even find anyone who defends it. So for a lot of the expenses, there's actually no defender at all. And then we have to just work through the process of stopping the spending, where there's often literally no defender. Nobody even knows why the money's being spent.
That's crazy, by the way. That's crazy. No accountability, but they're happy to take the money if it's coming their way. But they can't defend it once they're asked about it. You want some examples of some of the stuff they found? Here's what the president said today.
Just as an example, DOGE canceled $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education, $101 million, and that was just a small section of the Department of Education, $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City. And the landlord never made the kind of money that he made in the last short period of time. $59 million to a hotel in New York City, $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. In Burma, does anyone know about Burma? $42 million for social and behavioral change in Uganda. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. I can say it's $2 billion to Stacey Abrams and her environmental movement. There was $100 in the account, and all of a sudden they found $2 billion in the account. And I assume that's being looked at. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I assume that's being looked at. Think of that, $2 billion. And then Lee will tell you there's another one over there for $20 billion being spent on another environmental question. $20 billion. Not 20 million, a lot. Not 200,000, which is a lot. So think of it, in her case, you have $100, and now all of a sudden she gets hit with an infusion of $2 billion just before I take office. $20 million for Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. Nobody knows what that's all about. Nobody's been able to find it. $8 million for making mice transgender. So they spend $8 million on making mice transgender. And those are better than many of the others. I could sit here all day and read things just like that, but we have other things to do. So it's much, much more than just that.
So why are we only cutting about $9 billion? DOGE found about $1 trillion worth of waste so far. But why are they only cutting $9 billion? Now, the White House did send the rescission documents over to Congress for Congress to approve. And I'm happy about that, but I can't help but drawing the comparison. Remember when Bob Ferguson signed the largest tax increase in Washington history? And originally he had $4 billion worth of cuts he wanted to do, but instead they didn't do any of them. They did $25 million worth of cuts. So you're talking about a $36 trillion budget deficit, you name it. And they're only sending $9 billion worth of cuts over to Congress. I hope this is the first step. I hope we just have this becoming routine. $9 billion this month, $10 billion next month, $100 billion. I hope that's what it becomes. I hope it's not just a drop in the bucket. Now, let me say something that might be controversial, and I want to know what you think. You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. I think with Elon Musk gone, DOGE will be better off. And you say, what do you mean, Ari? He's the one who started the whole thing. And I thank him for that. And we thanked him for that yesterday on the show. And this never would have happened without him. And this is truly service of your country where you lose billions of dollars while you go to serve your country, take a break from your very successful companies, which all lost money while he was gone, to go serve your country. Can't thank him enough. Plus for inspiring other examples like DOGE Washington, and there are those across the country. But they focus their wrath on him. Without the headliner, is the media even going to notice? How often are they checking these documents that are coming out of the White House if they're sending rescission after rescission after rescission after rescission? As long as the DOGE people, who are now political appointees and working in the administration, as long as they keep doing what they're doing, they might even be doing it under the media's radar. I'm not saying hiding anything. I'm saying be transparent, send out press releases, do everything. But the media might not care anymore because it's not Elon Musk. Let me know what you think. Agree with me or disagree with me on that one. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I did like this when Elon Musk was asked about the New York Times or talking about the New York Times during this whole thing today.
There is a New York Times report today that accuses you of blurring the line between...
Is the New York Times, is that the same publication that got a Pulitzer Prize for false reporting on the Russiagate? Is it the same organization?
I think it is.
I think it is. I think the judge just ruled against the New York Times for their lies about the Russiagate hoax, and that they might have to give back that Pulitzer Prize. That New York Times, let's move on.
Which I think is great. Now, that wasn't the line of the day. Here's the line of the day from President Trump. Peter Doocy was just having fun today. It seemed like, hey, it's a Friday and it's sunny outside. And he asked President Trump about the president of France, the prime minister of France, getting smacked by his wife over the weekend. Listen to this.
Video on board a plane that showed the first lady of France slapping her husband, Emmanuel Macron. Do you have any world leader to world leader marital advice?
Make sure the door remains closed. That was not good.
Yes.
No, I spoke to him, and he's fine. They're fine. They're two really good people. I know them very well, and I don't know what that was all about, but I know them very well, and they're fine.
They're fine. That was not good. It was the worst. It's not good. Not good. Make sure the door is closed if you're going to smack somebody in the face. What goes on Air Force One now? I got questions. But anywho, yeah, not good. Terrible. Terrible, terrible. Worst thing I've ever seen. Speaking of the worst thing I've ever seen, a federal appeals court is now saying that a female spa has to admit biological males. We'll give you all the details about the one here in Washington when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You know how we did the story a few days ago that the Democrats are spending $20 million to try and figure out how to get young men back to the party? Why don't you guys just ask Carl's Jr.? Carl's Jr. knows how to get young men to buy hamburgers, so maybe you ask Carl's Jr. I don't know, it might involve some bikinis and some meat. Just putting that out there for a second. Men are very easy to understand. We want to be fed, we want to watch a ball game, and we want to watch pretty ladies, right? I think that about sums up the average male, and occasionally we want to sleep. You put all that together, you got men. We're so hard to understand. We are the simplest creatures walking this planet. I mean, not to be sexist or all, but it's built into the DNA, guys. It really, really is. Which brings us to our next story. Why do you think a biological male would want to go to a women's-only nude spa in Washington State? Just putting that out there for why do you think they would want to go there? Okay. The U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, according to the Post Millennial, ruled yesterday that a Christian-owned Korean female-only nude spa must permit trans-identifying males into the facility, upholding a 2023 Seattle lower court decision. This thing is going to go to the Supreme Court. It is for sure. You might remember the story of the Olympus Spa, with 2 locations in Washington State, was found to have discriminated against trans-identifying male with fully intact male genitalia after it prohibited him from using the women's facility that requires patrons to be nude, a policy that has been in place since its inception. 3-judge panel ruled against the spa 2-1. Here's something else. And this is going to sound terrible for a minute, okay? This is really going to sound like I'm supporting racism or bigotry for a second, okay? But forget the Carl's Jr. argument we just did a minute ago, why they would want to go to this place. But here's something else. You're going to a place where you are intentionally making people feel uncomfortable. Now, I'm not talking about a black person walking into a restaurant. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about here is that you are making people feel like they shouldn't be what they are doing in front of you, and you're trying to do that. I know some of you are going to yell at me for this and say, Ari, you're making the case for bigotry. You're making the case for racism. That's not what it is. You want your daughter to go in the bathroom with somebody like this? How many cases have we found of abuse in cases like this? How many things have we found of assault in cases like this? Of bad things happening to teenage girls in their high school bathrooms because they let some boy who said, I want to go into the bathroom. You know, when I was a kid and we wanted to go in the girls' bathroom, they kicked us out, and rightfully so. Why is every 80s movie about going into the girls' bathrooms? Because you ain't supposed to do it if you ain't a girl. You disagree with me, you want to yell at me, give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. The Circuit Appeals Court ruled Thursday that the spa cannot sue the state on First Amendment grounds. Judge Margaret McEwen, an appointee by Bill Clinton, wrote in the opinion that the spa's religious expression is only incidentally burdened. See, this is a problem. This is a terrible, terrible ruling, and I'm going to tell you why. They identify, see what I did there? They identify as a Christian spa. This is a religious issue, and as long as it is a religious issue, you're allowed to discriminate against whoever you want. That's actually the law, by the way. We allow discrimination all the time in religious institutions, right? That's what we do. Religions have their rules, and that's their religions. The second you make it a business decision, then you end up in the making cakes for gay weddings category kind of thing. But if you keep it with the religion, then you're okay. So actually, this is probably going to get overturned, and this will probably get overturned at the Supreme Court level, if not way, way before. She added, we are not unmindful of the concerns and beliefs raised by the spa. The spa may have other avenues to challenge the enforcement action, but whatever recourse it may have, that relief cannot come from the First Amendment. I believe you are wrong, Judge. The judge compared the spa's discrimination in previous arguments to racism during the civil rights era. It is nothing like that at all. They weren't saying, we don't want these black people in here because of our religion. Not at all. They were just saying, we don't like them because they're black, is what they were saying during that time. Here you're saying, our religion says that we have modesty standards. And if you have a bunch of women wandering around naked, you can't have a dude wandering around naked as well. That's what they're saying. So, this ruling will get tossed out. I am fully convinced of that. I really am. Judge Kenneth Lee, appointed by President Donald Trump, stayed from his colleagues and issued a fiery dissent accusing the state of weaponizing its anti-discrimination laws for political purposes. Yes. He says Korean spas are not like the spas at the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton with their soothing ambient music and lavender aroma and private lounges. Steeped in centuries-old tradition, Korean spas require that their patrons be fully naked as they sit in communal saunas and undergo deep tissue scrubbing for their entire bodies in an open area filled with unclothed patrons. Given this intimate environment, Korean spas separate patrons as well as employees by their sex. The state of Washington, however, threatened prosecution against Olympus Spa, a female-only Korean spa, because it denied entry to a pre-operative transgender female, i.e. a biological male who identifies as female but has not undergone sex reassignment surgery. If you're that committed to the bit, then why do you still have your bits? Let me ask you that question right there. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Bob Ferguson takes a victory lap before the race is over, and we are here to dunk on him. Plus, we'll talk about why there's a whole bunch of bees shutting down a highway. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:45, young Zach from The Morning Ride will be joining us for Fake News Friday. Put a smile on your face heading into the weekend. And speaking of smiles on my face heading into the weekend, you guys are funny over on the text line today. So on our last story regarding the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals allowing a biological male who still got his kibbles and bits to go to a female-only Christian spa. Rob in Lakewood says, spa, ladies just point and laugh at the guy. Yeah, that might do it. Bruce was talking about the DOGE cuts. He says, Ari, DOGE doesn't achieve victory until Congress passes and the president signs a bill ending the practice of earmarks. These expenditures, outside regular order and any merit-based review, are the source of so many outlandish waste of our tax monies that DOGE has brought to light thus far. I hope DOGE continues and can be more successful without the lightning rod that is Elon Musk. Until Congress eschews the tax gimmicks and specious spending, a lot of SAT words there, that put us deeper in debt. DOGE will have plenty of work to do. I just hope their work is not like running the pumps on the Titanic. You know, Bruce, that's exactly right, which is what I've been saying this whole time. I mean, the Republicans just passed a massive spending bill. You may say it's tax cuts. Yes, it is. But you need to offset that with spending cuts. If you're not bringing in as much revenue, you still have things to pay for. And there's more border security in that bill, stuff for the military in that bill. It's a spending bill. How are you offsetting the cuts? $9 billion in DOGE cuts ain't gonna do it. Mitch says regarding the shooting that happened in Belltown earlier today, Ari, I thought we just passed a permit to purchase law amongst many others in the few years that's supposed to prevent this kind of gun shooting. Kindly tell me all the things we did yet again to prevent the law-abiding citizens from them. Yeah, well, kind of said to me all the things we did yet again was preventing the law-abiding citizens from running them. Yes, exactly right, which is exactly what I said, which is absolutely crazy. Is that the drug dealers have the guns. We don't have the guns to protect ourselves because Bob Ferguson, the Washington Democrats, are trying to make it more and more onerous to own a gun. Some crazy news out of Washington earlier today. According to Fox 13, a truck carrying 70,000 pounds of bees overturned near Linden, closing Weidkamp Road for up to 48 hours as master beekeepers work to rehive the bees. An estimated 250 million honeybees escaped. This reminds me of the meme that goes around from time to time. You've seen it, where it's a truck of Diet Coke and a truck of Mentos that almost collide, and they go, we have no idea how close we came to the end of civilization as we know it. I'm always wondering these things. The movie Daylight. Right, Mike? Yes, we're going to transport these explosive chemicals through these tunnels you're not supposed to. And, oh, there's another truck coming which has explosive chemicals on them. And they happen no! And they happen to collide. By the way, one of the worst Sylvester Stallone movies ever made. Yes, it's about one of the tunnels in New York, and he has to save people. But it's terrible.
It's pretty not good.
It's awful. But anyway, so the bees are loose, and they bring in the master beekeepers. How many of the bees they expect to get back when they're released into the wild?
Well, it's kind of interesting because, you know, seeing various reports about this, I guess with, first of all, I did not realize that there was like a beekeeper culture. Like I just thought after we saw Jason Statham as the beekeeper that the beekeepers were like a clandestine organization meant to like protect the hive or whatever happens in that movie. A lot of like action guy stuff. Yes. But yeah, so I didn't realize that there was like an association of like vigilante beekeepers that are just like ready to beekeep at a moment's notice.
What I have found is that every thing that there's a hierarchy of experts in that field.
Sure.
I learned this from Legos.
Uh-huh.
Why? Because when I was planning youth things for the synagogue, I found out that one of the 11 Lego master builders in the world lives right here in Washington. And he's got his own little, you're right, he's got his own little workshop. In fact, most of the times when you guys go to these exhibits and they have a giant Lego Death Star or something, this guy, Dan Parker, is usually the one who built it. That's what he does. When you go to BrickCon at the Seattle Center, That's usually the kind of stuff you see at these things. So when I found out there were Lego builders and then you have to get the rank of master, and little Anakin Lego got all mad they didn't grant him the rank of master, so he went on this murder spree of the master builders.
I mean, he had a seat on the council. I mean, it should have been,
exactly.
should have been
At
enough
such
for
a
Lego
young
and-
age, right?
Yes, exactly.
But so here's the thing with these master beekeepers, I just think of Jason Statham coming out there protecting the hive. That's what he does, right?
Yeah. Well, the thing also though is you were talking about like how to wrangle these bees, and what do you do when you have like 500 million bees? Apparently, if you just kind of like leave the hives alone and you've got like queen bees and stuff, they'll just come back.
Right.
You just got to kind of wait them out.
Right. They're not going to find a hive somewhere. Well, they might find out another hive somewhere.
They might, actually.
I mean, it is the woods in the middle of nowhere out there in Linden, Washington. But yeah, I mean, they'll eventually come back because they want to go home.
Exactly.
Are you too good for your home? Go back to your home.
Go back to your home.
That's what the beekeepers are doing.
Yeah, so they're not out there with like cartoon nets trying to capture these things. I suggested they just send Macaulay Culkin out there, and he's that kid's a bee magnet.
Oh no!
Oh man, spoilers for that 30-year-old movie. Can't see without his glasses.
Oh, so sad. It's so sad. Yes, exactly. That's not the only crazy animal story we have, or insect wildlife related story we have today. Llamas. That's right. From Como News, Seattle's Woodland Park Zoo is housing 9 new animals, 3 llamas and 6 African crested porcupines, seized as part of a suspected animal neglect case in Oregon. That's right. We are saving the llamas and saving the porcupines. While the case continues, the animals are receiving care and temporary housing at the zoo. I don't know why I'm thinking of some guy who's a pet detective, not Ace Ventura style. I'm thinking of that classic 1950s with the trench coat guy walking around. I'm here for your llamas. I'm looking for the llamas. I'm looking for the porcupines. I don't know why all of a sudden he's got that kind of accent out here in Washington, but that's what I'm thinking with this story. He rescued them from the zoo that was neglecting them.
Llama Rama to point of phrase.
Yes.
I want to come back to the text line here and about the bees. First, our dude Matt has the kill shot. Sent me a GIF on the text line of Nicolas Cage and the Wicker Man. Not the bees, not the bees. So.
Oh, wait. We got another one that's good, too. The Mike Curb over on the text line says, cocaine bees?
There it is. A bee did cocaine?
Wait, what?
Ba-dum.
Exactly right.
Talk about white lines, my gosh.
Oh, no. Llamas freak me out, by the way. I'm going to tell you why. They're cute and they're adorable, but they sneak up on you.
Uh-huh.
So you know this from when Jonah was working. My son,
Sure.
Jonah the intern, when he was around, what would he do? He would just randomly pop over because I have really bad peripherals.
That's for sure.
Yeah, he would
I can specifically confirm that.
Right. I can't be a spy. He would just come over and lean over my shoulder until I would notice he is there. And he would just sit there. Now, he called it llama-ing. And you go, why do you call it llama-ing? So we're at one of those drive-through safaris, the one at the Olympic Game Park, out at the peninsula. I love that place. So we're out there. And what happens is I'm looking at the animals on one side, and I do not notice that a giant llama has shoved its entire head into my wife's SUV where I am driving this thing. And what happens? The llama's like right on my shoulder, and I turn around, and I must have jumped 10 feet in the air through the seatbelt, through the ceiling. At least that's how the story goes in my mind. But yeah, the llama freaked me out. Anyway, speaking of all these crazy hazards that are on the roads, llamas and bees and whatnot, it's amazing to me that the Seattle Times is claiming that...
Oh, no, the bees and the llamas have joined forces.
They're all coming after me.
Yeah.
The llamas are going to stare at me, judging with their crazy hair in front of them, right?
And then they open their mouth, and out come the bees.
That's right, it is. Exactly. Oh, my God, we're making a movie here. It's like Sharknado, Bee Llama. Llama Bee. I don't know. Llama Bee. That's what it is. Revenge of the Llama Bees. Exactly. So they're still saying that Washington road deaths decreased by nearly 10% last year. I'm kind of curious about where they're getting these numbers from because I'm not buying it. Now, I want things to get better. Don't get me wrong, but nothing's improved. We don't have more cops on the roads. We have more of these bike lanes that are causing problems. We have more people driving recklessly. How have the deaths gone down? If the deaths have gone down, I wonder if it's just like the homicides where people just haven't been shot yet. I wonder if that's kind of situation, because nothing has changed on the ground. Now, you disagree with me and you think something has changed on the ground. You give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. Maybe it's more people are riding transit. Sorry, I couldn't even keep a straight face through that one. According to King 5, Sound Transit has delayed the light rail extension between Seattle and the east side. Wait, you know what that means, Mike? I think Mike made this joke earlier. It's that guy who escaped SeaTac via the light rail, he's still in Seattle. He's not going very far because the light rail's not done out to the east side.
He's just going back and forth from Linwood down to Des Moines and back again. Just constantly on the train.
Back and forth. That's all he's doing all day. So, wait. A Sound Transit project was delayed? No, really? Hang on, is it going to cost more money? Yes, it's going to cost more money. Dow Constantine, the Sound Transit board chair who makes $465,000 a year that we know of, was actually giving a press conference the other day. Here's what he said.
Tax are also, of course, environmental. All electric rail cuts down on global carbon emissions. It also cuts down on local ambient air pollution, making every one of these communities a healthier place.
That is a flat-out lie. I'm going to tell you why that's a flat-out lie. One, the carbon emissions that go into creating that monster. Where do you get the steel from, guys? Where do you get anything that you build that thing with? How about all the trucks you use to do it? Let's start right there. Number 2, electric rail. Well, hydroelectric power is a source of our power, but the solar and the wind ain't keeping up. So a lot of this stuff is coming from, other sources that are also contributing to global warming, right? At least that's by their logic. That's what they say. There is no way that is accurate. No way at all. And since not a lot of people are ditching their cars for transit, that hasn't changed at all. So all you've actually done is put more carbon into the atmosphere. Well done, everybody. Really well done. And meanwhile, they just keep charging us more and more for this kind of insanity, making things more and more expensive. You know that Washington, our taxes on our gas, is modeled after California's. Well, California's having a little bitty teeny problem right now where they're worried that their gas, because of this insane climate commitment, same kind of stupidity that we have here, might hit $10 a gallon.
A live look over the state capitol right now, where Governor Gavin Newsom's administration was in the hot seat today as California is set to lose 2 oil refineries within the next year. Those closures will come after the governor and his administration pushed and successfully passed new regulations on the oil industry within the last few years.
Now, lawmakers are now worried how this is going to impact California drivers and their cost of living. Case Area 3 Capitol correspondent Ashley Zavala takes a closer look at what could be next.
Governor Gavin Newsom's top administration officials in the hot seat today over California's situation with oil refiners and potential rising gas prices. Democratic lawmakers signaling they may be losing trust with some of these agencies.
I know that what climate leadership does not look like, and that is $10 gas.
California's clean air push facing pushback from both political parties. Lawmakers worry state regulators have kept drivers, workers, and Californians overall as an afterthought as 2 oil refiners prepare to shut down within the next year. Those 2 account for about 20% of the state's oil refining capacity.
We're talking about a plan when these companies leave and what happens to the land. I'm concerned about what happened to the people.
Lawmakers grilled the leaders of the state agencies that regulate the oil and gas industry, including California Air Resources Board Chair Leanne Randolph, Vice Chairman of the California Energy Commission Siva Gunda, and the Department of Petroleum Market Oversight Director Ty Milder.
We have a crisis on our hand that may have been self-created by the actions that perhaps have been taken by the state, by regulators.
Democratic Assemblyman David Alvarez and others frustrated after they were swayed to approve some of the latest regulations put on the oil and gas industry.
I think I also heard you say that another closure can lead to a significant increase in cost to consumers on the price of gas.
Yes, sir.
Gunda told lawmakers California will likely need to have oil imported from other parts of the world by ships.
So we really have only one choice there today, which is, increasing imports. Based on our work right now, that will be very tight for the North.
increase in imports, which means that you have more vessels who what I've heard also, if you increase the vessels, then that means more emissions because we don't control those vessels and the emissions at which they bring. Is that correct?
You are correct that additional marine traffic would implicate air quality issues beyond state waters that we do not regulate.
Now, this was just an informational hearing, so no action was taken. It's unclear exactly what the next steps will be, but Governor Newsom's administration is still apparently trying to come up with a plan to deal with those 2 upcoming refinery closures.
Deciding to come up with a plan now. So you close the refineries, didn't factor in how people are going to get gas, didn't factor in how much it's going to raise gas prices, and you want to run for president? Thank you to KCRA for that report. But yeah, democracy at its finest, or is it just Democrats at their finest? Yeah, our state is doing the same dumb things. Just watch. Remember, Bob Ferguson said, we're going to order more ferries. And he's back to this hybrid electric nonsense. We're doing that again. Has there been a ferry out there somewhere testing itself for like the last couple of weeks? I don't see it today, Mike, but it's been out there. We've been watching it for a while. Yeah, it doesn't seem like the technology is quite there yet. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Lou in Linden. Lou, have you seen the bees? Are they near you? Are you safe from the bees?
No, I haven't seen a bee today.
Okay. What's on your mind, man?
No bees.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but if they'll make some honey for me, come on over.
Fantastic.
But yeah, I was calling because I wondered, you're a young fellow, if you had were around in 2004 and knew how the Democrats were so adept at stealing close elections, and in fact they stole the election in 2004 between Christine Gregoire and
you mean Dino Rossi? I was around for that. In fact, Dino Rossi was in my brother-in-law's house at a campaign event. That was my first foray into anything political in Washington State. I went to the event because Danny goes, I'm having my this guy who's running for governor over. And I go, great, fantastic. Let's go meet the guy running for governor. I was really impressed with Dino Rossi. That was one of my first experiences with politics ever. And the Democrats got more adept at it and perfected their system. How so? By saying we're going to go to all mail-in ballot. And now that they do all mail-in ballots, they got really good at ballot harvesting. And I got to say, unless the Republicans up their game in the same regard, we're just going to keep losing again and again and again. And so many people are resistant. They go, well, we don't feel like cheating. I go, it's not cheating. It's the rules of the game. Lou, great call. Appreciate the historical perspective. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from John in Redmond. John, what's up, man?
Ari, I thought it was so humorous about the animal farm at Squim.
Yeah.
We were driving through there one day, and our 3 daughters were in the back seat, and my youngest daughter, 4 or 5, said, Mom, could I have another dill pickle? And all the windows were down, and my wife handed her a pickle, and we drove a few feet further, and all of a sudden this little voice said, hey, Mom, could I have another dill pickle?
Let me guess, the llama ate it right out of her hand?
Right out of her hand, and Barbara said, did it bite you? Oh, no, it just nibbled at it.
So this reminds me of the story that has scarred me for life from these drive-through zoos and the animal safaris. This one I think I've told on air before, but I'm a little kid. I think I'm 10 years old. And my parents are taking us through this place called Park Safari. I don't even know if it's there anymore, but it's in the New York-Canada border up there somewhere. And we're going through this place. And what happens, we've got these boxes of food that we bought at the beginning. And, all right, give a little bit here to an animal, give a little bit there to an animal. And what happens, this giant ox sticks its head into the car. And my mom starts freaking out because it comes right through her. This giant head is right there. And my mom's like, close the window. My dad's like, that's going to decapitate it. Then you have a dead ox head. We can't do that. How do we get it out of here? It ate all the food, and then it kind of starts twitching. and kind of reels back a little bit and then sneezed all over the entire interior of the car. So my little brother and little sister are crying. We're all covered in ox snot. It's everywhere. So for life, I am scarred for these drive-through safaris, but your story is way more adorable, John. Appreciate the call.
Okay.
Appreciate the humor on Friday,
Thank
my
you,
friend.
Ari.
Yeah, you want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to talk about. Bob Ferguson takes a victory lap on the tariffs before realizing another court put him back in place. So we'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, your last chance to win 2 tickets to the Offspring and tickets to see an advanced screening of Ballerina, the new John Wick spinoff with Ana de Armas, plus a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, and so much more. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. You guys are busy on the text line today. I hope it's because you're sitting outside with a cocktail and not because you're driving, unless you're doing voice to text. That's fine. But I hope it's because you're sitting outside on this lovely, lovely day. I'm looking outside our window here, and I just want to be on my boat today. I got my boat back today, by the way. Got it all ready for the season. I'm all excited because this weekend, you know where I want to be, Mike, when I'm not at the Roy Rodeo, after I'm done with the Roy Rodeo? You know where I want to be, Mike? I'll tell you where I want to be. I want to be on a boat, my friends.
I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat. Everybody look at me because I'm sailing on a boat.
Exactly right. I'm very excited for that. You guys over on the text line, Dave here has a great point. He says, once again, California severely impacts the whole region. All the gas they were producing has to come from somewhere. He means it has to be made up somewhere. The gas in the entire West Coast will go up because supply goes down and demand remains the same. Excellent, excellent point. Mike says they are pumping over 1 million gallons a day. There's no shortage of oil. Well, there's about to be, because they're shutting down those refineries. So that'll work out really well for all of us, won't it? We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Rob in Mount Vernon. Rob, what's going on, man?
And there's been so much corruption throughout the 5 decades that I've been able to vote that can't keep up with it all. But I remember when Dino Rossi won the election, but then they recounted and he miraculously lost.
Yep.
I didn't hear Lou bring that up.
Yeah, they just kept counting and counting and counting and counting. That's what happened, which was absolutely crazy. Yeah, which is what they always do. I mean, why is it that the more moderate candidate in Washington is always winning on election night when it's a close race, and then magically all these votes show up? And how is it? Let me put this one out here. So we now know that Washington has 8 million residents because we got 1 million Californians during the pandemic. So we went from 7 to 8 million. Now, Israel has 9 million people, and they can count paper ballots in 1 day. We do mail-in. How come we can't do it in 1 day? Hey, Rob?
We need to, man. We need to do everything, and we need to do it 100 times more than what the demon rats have been doing, because that's the only way we're going to win. We got to play dirty, and we got to do it the way they do it, or we're just going to keep spinning around like a rat on a wheel, going nowhere. It sucks.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
I hate to say it, but we have to, we have to play the game.
Exactly.
So,
otherwise, we're playing with 2 hands tied behind our back and a leg. I mean, imagine trying to play basketball or any sport that way. That's not going to work out so well for you. Rob, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's going on?
Oh, nothing much. Regarding that shooting you talked about, yes, I got caught up in that shooting downtown because I was on a rapid ride bus coming from 165th and Aurora Avenue North, and it took me 1 hour to go around it, all because of somebody who was possibly a convicted felon and dealing drugs right in front of that officer.
So what you're telling me, right, what you're telling me is I shouldn't go through Belltown to get home today. I think that's the traffic alert we've heard. Stay away from Linden because of the bees, and don't go through Belltown because of the shooting. Leonard, appreciate the call. Stay safe, my friend. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. So yesterday, Turd Ferguson decided to take a victory lap on the tariffs being temporarily stopped by a court before 5 minutes later they got put back in place. And here's what he wrote. You ready? Now, this is funny to me. Bob Ferguson has 2 Twitter accounts. The one that's his personal one, he hasn't been using a lot since he became governor. When he was running for, this is the one he uses when he runs for things, but also the one, it's his own personal thoughts on life. But yesterday he posted on both accounts, his governor account and on this one. I am proud to be in the fight against Donald Trump's unlawful tariffs that are harming our economy. Time out. I remember that Joe Biden put a whole bunch of tariffs in place and he was the attorney general. Did he sue over any of those? No, I don't think he did. Exactly. So Bob Ferguson continues by saying, when he imposed tariffs, I built a coalition of impacted Washington businesses and workers and presented their stories to the court. Together, we will keep fighting for economic justice. I'm sorry. Hang on. Can we back up a second here? Impacted businesses and workers. Didn't you just sign the largest tax increase in Washington state history which is specifically going to impact, wait for it, businesses and workers. You know who it's going to hurt some of the hardest? It's actually going to be the restaurant industry, anybody who serves alcohol. They're getting hit on liquor taxes. They're getting hit on B&O taxes. They're getting hit on employee taxes and minimum wage. You name it. You're going to put a lot of people out of business. So pardon me if I don't think this is the brag or the dunk you think it is. Let's see what he said on his official Governor Turd Ferguson account. Oh, my God. Who's going to make the parody? Who's going to make the parody? Oh, that would be so good. It will not be me. All right, here we go. I led a coalition of businesses, labor, and elected leaders in filing a friend of the court brief supporting a multi-state lawsuit to block the Trump administration's illegal tariffs. Okay, hang on a second. So what you're saying is you didn't file an amicus brief. You filed a friend of the court brief, which goes, woo, we agree. We agree. Wow, you're saving democracy. These tariffs are hurting Washington state. Our coalition is ensuring the voices of Washington workers and businesses are heard. Are you listening to the Washington workers and businesses who are going to be hurt because you signed the largest tax increase in Washington state? Oh, and then he finishes it with this. We must all stand up for hardworking businesses, workers, and consumers, including you, Bob, who signed the largest tax increase in Washington state. That, wait for it, is going to cost every family in Washington, conservatively, $2,000 extra a year. What's that going to do to your budget, my friends? When we come back with record overdoses in Shoreline, we've still got the public school district is laying off all their drug counselors? That's the cut you want to make? Interesting. We'll discuss when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So you know how they keep saying we have this big crisis of drugs and alcohol and substance abuse in our schools? Well, then why is Shoreline cutting all the people who deal with that in the schools? Woke 5 has a story for us.
When someone is feeling hopeless, it's hard to be ready to be in a classroom and learn.
Too many young people have stories about substance abuse or mental health issues these days. Kids like 15-year-old Eleanor Bowling, who lost her dad to a fentanyl overdose.
It makes me really sad and it makes me really emotional because just seeing people just kind of throwing away their lives when they have so much potential.
And 16-year-old Tachi Schaefer, who struggled with addiction.
Which would definitely impact my learning.
I'm sure everybody knows somebody connected to this epidemic.
Shoreline schools employ 2 drug and alcohol counselors in the district's middle and high schools. They arrange assemblies like this one, raising awareness of America's fentanyl crisis. But the district plans to cut those positions to help make up for a $6.5 million budget deficit.
If we don't have these drug and alcohol counselors, then who are they going to go to?
According to the State Department of Health, teen drug and alcohol use are declining, but the levels are still concerning. More concerning are the 42% of teens who experience persistent hopelessness and the 9% who attempt suicide.
She's definitely saved lives.
9th grader Ziggy Tormey launched this petition campaign to save the 2 counselors, saying the district is going against its own principles.
One of the critical priorities they want to address in students is social and emotional health and behavior. And I think that that's exactly what Ms. Coquille's position is.
Coquille Johnson is one of the counselors on the chopping block. She worries what will become of Shoreline students if they don't have somewhere to go to discuss their mental health.
I think that it's going to be a lot of kids suffering within the classroom or going and just not having anybody to talk to.
As for Eleanor, she simply doesn't want to see any of her friends meet the same fate as her father.
You can't just say, oh, don't do drugs. You have to tell them and warn them and see all these concerns that people have for you.
In Shoreline, Eric Wilkinson, King 5 News.
And King 5 reached out to Shoreline schools for comment about the cuts, and they declined.
Now, here's a question I have, which is, how many things are they wasting money on in the Shoreline School District that could be paying for these positions that are needed? Are they still paying for the DEI insanity? Because the DEI stuff isn't that important. The DEI stuff will say, oh, you need counseling for drugs? Let's trans you. Let's do that. I got to say, I'm actually pretty impressed that King 5 didn't bring that up in that report. But this is the kind of thing, these are needed positions, and they're cutting funding for those. What superfluous positions do they have in the Shoreline School District that could be cut instead? So whenever the Democrats say, oh, we want wraparound services, we want to make sure we have all the mental health stuff, how come they always cut the wraparound services and the mental health stuff? Every single time. I'm going to reach out to the Shoreline School District because I'd like to know what's going on here. Meanwhile, University of Washington has more problems. A professor at University of Washington, Tacoma, has been charged with multiple crimes, including assault, harassment, and driving under the influence following an incident earlier this month in Kittitas County. Kurt Dion Hatch, 55, who currently serves as a faculty director of the Educational Administration Program and is a professor at the school, was arrested on May 12th at the Suncadia Lodge. Man, getting arrested on vacation? After law enforcement responded to a 911 call involving a woman allegedly being assaulted. Court records obtained by the News Tribune show Hatch faces charges of felony harassment, 4th-degree assault, driving under the influence, and 2 counts of violating a protection order. Hatch has over 2 decades of experience in the education field, having previously served as principal of Mountain View Elementary in the North Thurston School District and in University Place. According to the report by the Kittitas County Sheriff's Office on May 12th, deputies were dispatched to the Prospector Inn at 11:38 p.m. after a woman called 911 while crying and yelling, "Quit hurting me." A man's voice was also heard in the background. Responding officers initially had difficulty locating the woman, who claimed she was looking for her dog and that everything was fine. Officers later found her car parked at the lodge and discovered Hatch inside the vehicle with her. According to the documents, Hatch was in the driver's seat and admitted his identity to deputies. The woman had a protection order against him stemming from previous alleged assault in November of 2024. Despite Hatch claiming the protection order was no longer valid, deputies confirmed it was active until 2029. The report states Hatch showed signs of intoxication, including bloodshot eyes, slow responses, and the smell of alcohol. A breathalyzer test yielded the results of .09 and .084, which is above the legal limit in Washington state, and he was behind the wheel of a car. The woman had a visible cut on her chin, later told deputies that Hatch had struck her multiple times while she was driving. She also claimed he threatened to kill them, both by crashing the vehicle. Documents reveal that she considered jumping from the car, but ultimately did not. She said Hatch attempted to evade law enforcement by driving toward the lodge after spotting emergency vehicle lights. Hatch was taken into custody, booked into the county jail. The following day, he was arraigned and then released on $50,000 bail. A university spokesperson told the News Tribune in a statement, "We take such matters with the utmost seriousness, and the university is currently responding." Like the way you guys take everything else with the utmost seriousness, and you're currently responding? I'm sure. Yeah, my question is that you have all these universities that allow in all these foreign students. We don't know who they are, and yet we have Democrats who are saying you need to keep funding these people from outside our country. Aren't you guys the ones who are always saying you want tuition to be cheaper or pay for student debts? Maybe you'd have the money to do that. If, I don't know, maybe you weren't supplementing all these terrorist kids or these kids from the Chinese Communist government to come here on student visas. Maybe. Just a thought. Donald Trump was talking today in the White House in the Oval Office when he was having Elon Musk's farewell party, and he said this.
I'd like to see the money go to trade schools, where people learn how to fix motors and engines, where people learn how to build rocket ships, because, you know, somebody has to build those rocket ships. Yeah. And I'd like to see trade schools set up, because you could take $5 billion plus hundreds of billions more, which is what's spent, and you could have the greatest trade school system anywhere in the world. And that's what we need to build his rockets and robots and things that he's doing, and to build lots of other things. And, you know, I went to school with people. In some cases, they weren't good students, but they could fix the engine of a car better than anybody I've ever seen. They could take it apart blindfolded. They had an ability at that. And they did very well. They made a lot of money. You know, it's a very skilled job. It's great. But I'd like to see a lot of money going into trade schools. I've always felt that. And we probably found our pot of gold, and that's what's been wasted at places like Harvard. And the money's been wasted, please.
Absolutely. And by the way, what's going to happen is then you'll control the unions. Wait a minute. Rockets, robots, building robots. Hang on a minute. This is no good. I know how this ends. I know where we're ending up here. Flying robots? This is exactly how Skynet takes over. I saw that movie. By the way, recently. By the way, can't find Terminator 3 anywhere. I think there's a reason for that.
That's probably for the best.
You can find those other awful ones, but you can't find Terminator 3 anywhere, my friends. No, you can't. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, Fake News Friday. Put a smile on your face heading into the weekend. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
can rely on.
It's called fake news.
With young Zach.
Educate yourself, you fool.
On the Ari Hoffman Show, Talk Radio 570 KVI.
What a crazy week, believe it or not. A Seattle mayor choosing Antifa over Christians is not fake news. Young Zach, what do you got for us today?
Well, we're going to start with the Babylon Bee.
Excellent.
Oh, see, that's a surprise tool that'll help us later. Quote the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. All right, from the Babylon Bee, Trump demands to see Bruce Springsteen's birth certificate to prove that he was born in the USA.
Yeah. Very good, very good.
Oh, man. Also from the Babylon Bee, American students unsure who to cheat off of now that Trump revokes Chinese student visas. Gosh, dang it, maybe I could have been an engineer after all.
Yeah.
They would have let me in.
Very good.
We're going to see a plummet in the mathematics and the sciences for sure.
And a lot fewer white kids shuffled off to the landscape architecture department. I'll tell you that much.
What else you got?
I guess I should specify underperforming white students.
Oh, sure. There you go.
I'm not going to claim I'm a victim of racism.
Yeah.
It was clearly my lack of achievement, but that's besides the point.
And
that's,
now you're here.
That's some personal stuff I got to work through.
That is the straight line career path, and now you're a radio show producer,
and that is much better than anything else.
Yeah.
Back to the Babylon Bee. Tom Cruise kicking himself after learning he could have been using CGI this whole time.
I saw an article because I mean we're the probably the next big movie we're excited for is the F1, right? You know, Zach, you're a racing enthusiast, and I saw they were talking with director Joseph Kosinski, who directed Tom Cruise and Top Gun Maverick.
Not to be confused with Ted.
Yes. Exactly. But they had said that like
death, horrible death.
If Tom Cruise was the star of F1 instead of Brad Pitt, there'd be all kinds of bashed cars and all kinds of problems because Tom would probably race all the F1 cars and probably crash a bunch of them and cause.
It looked like Nikita Mazepin out there. That's for the F1 fans.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you say so.
Yes.
He was a Russian oligarch's son, literally an oligarch.
Okay.
That the Russians paid off the American team to let this kid drive the car and put it in a Russian flag, and he was awful, really bad. They called him Mazepin. It was so bad.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Well, just to keep this joke burrowed into the ground thoroughly, if Tom Cruise was in F1 instead of Brad Pitt, they'd be reviewing the dailies, after they're done filming, and it would be much like when the South African delegation went to the White House, and what it would be like if they were reviewing that footage. Why are you not pressing the button? Press the button, the one where he goes death, death, death. Thank you.
Death, horrible death.
Does he kill so many people?
Yes.
Oh,
all the carnage.
Super dead.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
What else you got?
That joke was not worth it. I was trying to stretch for time and was successful.
Oh, I still got one more for the Babylon Bee. Elon Musk leaves job of making government more efficient for a much easier job of sending humans to Mars.
I'd like that one.
No one said he had to bring him back.
That's true. Hey. Send him back.
Oh, send him back. No, we got to bring him back, not send him back.
Oh, right.
Oh, man. But I do have this one from the Hard Times. This one's for you, Mike. Trump administration to cut much-needed mental health funds for clown posses.
No longer insane.
Yeah, it's a real problem. I saw this headline on Como News. Seattle sees surge in graffiti ahead of, quote, graffiti season. Graffiti season? I still have my religious persecution decorations up.
Oh, very good. Very good. I like that.
I never put down my COVID decorations. I still got my riot season.
Riot season's here, baby. I'm ready for that one.
Got the 3 Days Grace song going.
Yeah. See, you leave them up long enough, it just comes back around again. It's a new year.
Like that's why they don't clean. Everyone who's not cleaning graffiti is just waiting for graffiti season to roll back around.
See, that's what it is.
I see.
It's like you don't, Christmas lights. You don't go hiring people to scrub those off the wall.
Right.
But anyway, obviously, I think we've all heard the story about the 250 million bees being just dumped out on the highway.
Yes.
My favorite headline was from King 5. Semi-truck carrying 250 million bees crashes into Whatcom County. Okay, that's fine. Sure. Second part of the headline, now the bugs are on the loose. It's not OJ, and I believe they're called insects, but that's not important right now.
Yeah, and they're after the zebra. The zebra's on the loose.
Got
they're
the
just
zebra.
used to these stories.
The zebra's on, but the zebra.
Well, they caught him all right.
You get the bees. That's a lost cause. I don't get the buzz.
Oh, no.
Ari, do you know why bees hum?
Why, Zach?
I forgot the words to the song.
Did you know that bees can smell fear?
That, but I know what all those bees are out there saying, though. Swarm out, ain't it?
Oh, my goodness.
No.
I thought we did a Paul-in radio show.
Oh,
wow.
These hurt.
Yeah.
This is not how I was expecting to spend my Friday afternoon, but here we are.
I hope you're all there with me. Y'all could have chosen to spend your afternoon very differently with the click of a button, and I appreciate you continuing to listen to this. I'm so sorry.
Well, that's all right, though, because, we were having some conversations with our friends in the newsroom, and apparently there's he was asking about the reaction from the beekeeping community.
I was dying.
To which I perked up immediately.
Jason Statham?
Yes, exactly. It's like, oh, thanks for putting up with me and me bees. That's like quietly the most poignant part of that movie. Poor Felicia Rashad is taking care of Jason Statham, taking him in, let him live out in her barn, and he's just like, oh, thanks for taking care of me for all these years. And me bees.
I was dying when the newsroom, our real news people around here, are discussing this story.
Yes.
All the implications. What does this mean for traffic? What does this mean for the environment? I couldn't keep it together.
It means it stings.
Oh, no.
I will leave you all with one more actual fake news story from The Onion.
Okay.
Interactive exhibit lets kids figure out how to manage a budget shortfall that will otherwise shutter the museum.
I like that.
Very
I like
good.
that. So we got a thing coming up this weekend, yeah?
Yeah.
I think we do.
We have the Roy Pioneer Rodeo this weekend. That's right, my
Yeah,
friends. May 31st and June 1st, and we're going to be out there I'm going to be out there on Sunday.
Yep.
When are you guys going to be out there?
Saturday afternoon.
Okay, Saturday afternoon. So, reminder to show up early. The doors open at 11 a.m. And, by the way, there's mutton busting this weekend. And if you don't know what mutton busting is, this is something I'm so happy I was introduced to. They put little kids on sheep, like bucking broncos. It's child abuse and awesome at the same time.
Don't pull that audio cut. If I ask,
flag that.
If I ask politely, will they let me bust a mutton?
Oh, very good.
Busted makes me feel good. No.
This is a real. I'm just trying. This is a real question.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
Yes. You want to bust a mutton?
I would love to bust a mutton.
When I first discovered
We'll see if those mutton chops.
I was so mad I couldn't send my kids out to do that. They put the kids in the football gear and then throw them on a sheep. It's awesome.
I don't care if the gear don't fit. I'll do it.
Please. The gear would fit.
Just wear the racing gear. You'll be fine.
I'll
It'll be
rob
perfectly
muttons?
fine. I'll be there on Sunday along with Phil and Zach, the morning ride crew. So come on out to the Roy Pioneer Rodeo. That's this weekend, May 31st and June 1st. The doors open at 11 a.m. The show starts at 1:30 p.m. Roy Pioneer Rodeo events include NPRA riders for bareback broncs, saddle broncs, bulls, wild cow milking, barrel races, team roping, tie-down roping, and steer wrestling. I'm excited for this. Plus, we'll be cranking the Hank with our friends over at 101.5 Hank FM. It's going to be a lot of fun. Right, Zach?
Do the steers wrestle each other?
I wouldn't know. You would know this more than I would.
I hope so. I hope so.
There's some guys in pickup trucks really disappointed in this show right now.
Yeah. Well, and I also hear rumor that there may be an after party as well on Saturday.
That's what the Big Mike KVI Facebook account would say.
Apparently, there will be a gathering of the militia. Well-regulated, of course.
As would the Roundup's Facebook page.
Yes.
Very good.
I'll bring my Roundup hat.
Very good. Thank you, young Zach. Looking forward to seeing everybody out at the Roy Pioneer Rodeo this weekend. You can hear the morning ride every single weekday from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, including I read Jake Tapper's book, and it was something. We'll talk about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Bye.
Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free-for-all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories streaming live on KVI.com and the KVI app. You want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves? Call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your last chance to win tickets to The Offspring and tickets to an advanced screening of Ballerina. But before we get to any of that, you know what I'm looking forward to this weekend? Having a nice glass of scotch with some rocks in it. That's my thing. I don't drink during the week at all. I go home on Friday. I have a drink with my wife before heading into Sabbath. And you know what I'm going to read over Sabbath? That's when I get all my reading done because we don't use the phones and computers or anything. No phones, no lights, no motor cars. It's, not a single luxury. Like Robinson Crusoe. It's as primitive as can be. That's the Sabbath for me, but I really, really love it. I'm going to be reading more of Jake Tapper's book. I bought it, so you didn't have to. That's right, my friends. I was reading this thing last weekend, and it upsets me. It upsets me for many, many reasons. But before I tell you why this book upsets me, Joe Biden was out in public today. First time he's out giving a public address since his cancer revelation. I'm not going to say cancer diagnosis. For all we know, the cancer diagnosis came years ago. But he's out in public trying to convince people that he's perfectly fine and that he's mentally fit, and it went about as well as you would expect.
The idea when America was founded out, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We meant it. That's who we are. That's what makes America the most unique nation in the world, literally, not figuratively. In fact, folks,
dude sounds like he was set on fast forward. That's number one. Also screwed up the line again. Again. How many times has he tried doing that and he screws it up again? Every Democrat just did the face palm, the big head slap like that. You're bringing out Joe Biden again when we're trying to move on from this? They always say we're looking forward, looking forward. And yet, the Biden family, Jill Biden is the worst wife in the history of the U.S., except for maybe Edith Wilson. Jill Biden is the absolute worst wife that she keeps doing this to her husband. Or was this an example of, okay, Grandpa, we'll bring you to the office today, but then it's right back to the home with you? Is that what this is all about? Joe Biden, it's an absolute disaster today, an absolute disaster. He continued by saying this.
It's about something profound. Our politics have become so divided and so bitter. All the years I've been doing this, I never thought we'd get to this point. But we are.
Hang on a second, Joe. Aren't you the one who stood in front of Independence Hall with a blood-red backdrop demonizing Republicans? Haven't you been demonizing Republicans and Donald Trump and MAGA extremists and all that? That was you, right? Just making sure, Joe? Now, I know you're not the one writing the speech. That's everybody else writing the speeches for you. You may not even know what you're saying. Sure sounds like somebody's been sitting in the back to tank for a while, right, Mike? Seems like this guy is fully healed up and they shot him full of whatever it was. Maybe he's hanging out with Hunter again, get himself some cocaine. I don't know what's going on over there. But dude is zesty.
So he's been in the tank long enough to where now he's come out of all the flashbacks. Like there's no more flashbacks to where now he could just go on and have an adventure just in time for some other dude to come in and take over the entire show.
Exactly.
I'm talking about the Book of Boba Fett.
Well,
that is what happens in the Book of Boba Fett. Boba Fett goes to take a nap in his bacta tank while he is sleeping. Dude spends half of his own show sleeping.
So the Mandalorian can show up and take the rest of the show away from him. So you mean how Donald Trump can show up because he's way cooler and way better and take the show away from him? Or, you know what? Let's be generous.
See, it all makes sense.
Let's be generous for a second here. So another Democrat can show up and take all the news away from him? I don't know, maybe a Pete Buttigieg.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I would say that Pete Buttigieg just ain't cooler than Joe Biden.
No, maybe a Gavin Newsom, perhaps. Maybe a Gretchen Whitmer. You know who you haven't heard from for a while.
Rather be over there looking at Gretchen.
Oh, no. Bad Mike. No. There's a line I can't say in the radio.
You played yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to say that line. But, yeah, Joe Biden's rambling stuff was, well, he's got a little bit of energy today.
Our troops don't wear a uniform that says I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. It says I'm an American. I'm an American. That's who I am.
You know he's speaking at a Memorial Day event? Does he not know Memorial Day was a week ago? Did they not think about maybe setting this up for last week, or was this one of those things that was postponed because of Joe Biden's health? Also, Joe, if you want to unite the country, you ran on uniting the country when you ran in 2020, and then you proceeded to divide the country even more. Get the jab or lose your job. All the vaccine mandate insanity, all the lockdown insanity continued and got doubled down on by you. Blowing out the spending, making things worse for people with inflation, opening up the borders to a massive invasion, and then demonizing your opponents for calling out your dumb policies. You did this, Joe.
I'm serious about this. I'm not joking. And folks, our politics has become, as I said, so divided. They wear the uniform of the United States of America. The only nation in the world, literally, not free, the only nation in the world founded on an idea. An idea. Every nation was founded on geography, ethnicity, some unifying principle, but not an idea.
He's really playing the hits, isn't he? The old stuff he used to say all the time. And he's very feisty. He's very spry for a man his age. Yes, he is. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, maybe Jake Tapper was wrong. Maybe all those reporters were wrong. And then when he talks to the reporters, we get the usual Joe Biden, because he can only go for so long.
And there's also been a lot of discussion recently about your mental and physical capabilities while you were in office.
You can see that. I'm mentally incompetent, and I can't walk, and I can beat the hell out of both of them.
Do you want to reply to any?
Hang on a second. Can we rewind that back 1 second there? What did he just say about being mentally incompetent?
And there's also been a lot of discussion recently about your mental and physical capabilities while you were in office.
You can see that. I'm mentally incompetent.
I'm mentally incompetent. Joe Biden. Put that over the archway to the Joe Biden Museum. I'm mentally incompetent. Oh, we need to turn that into its own sound clip that we use on the show more and more. I'm mentally incompetent, Joe Biden. Then he says this.
And I can't walk, and I can beat the...
and I can't walk. And I can't walk. Joe Biden. Hang on. Let's just do that one more time. I'm mentally incompetent, and I can't walk. Joe Biden.
Physical capabilities while you were in office.
You can see that. I'm mentally incompetent, and I can't walk.
I'm mentally incompetent, and I can't walk. Mike, can you do me a favor? Would you mind just taking that sound clip and shortening it down to just I'm mentally incompetent after the show today at some point? Because I'm sure we'll find use for that later. I'm mentally incompetent. What other pearls of wisdom did old Joe have for us?
I can beat the hell out of both of them.
I can beat the hell out of both of them. You mean Jill and Hunter? You mean Donald Trump and J.D. Vance? You mean Donald Trump and Elon Musk? Who can you beat the hell out of? You mean the reporters? Who are we beating up today? If you're mentally incompetent and can't walk, you shouldn't be fighting anybody. With your bad back, you shouldn't be fighting anybody.
Boy, have you lost your mind, because I'll help you find it.
Yeah, exactly. With your bad back, Ed, you shouldn't be fighting anybody.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
Yeah, that's Jill in a few years. Oh, what else? What other pearls did Joe have for us?
Do you want to reply to any of those reports, and also to the fact that there are some Democrats who are now questioning whether you should have run for re-election in the first place?
Why didn't they run against me then? Because I'd have beaten them.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, they didn't run against you because there was no primary, Joe. There was no primary at all. They didn't run one because they wanted to just give it to Kamala and hope that the black woman, the first black female president of the United States, that's what they ran on. And otherwise, they would have had a real tough time keeping all that money for the campaign. Would have been a huge issue. Democrats would have found a way. They would have, because they always do. But would have been some sticky situation there. You didn't have a primary, Joe. And in fact, according to Jake Tapper's book, now, all right, let me put this in its proper context for a minute, Jake Tapper's book. So this thing has an introduction. And in the introduction, I'm paraphrasing here, but it says something to the effect of, for those of you who think you're going to find out Joe Biden was a vegetable in 2016, you're not going to see that in this book. And for those of you that think you're going to find out he was mentally with it in 2024, you're not going to find that either, okay? He then proceeds to tell one of his first stories about Joe Biden being mentally incompetent as vice president of the United States. So right off the bat, I don't believe anything Jake Tapper says. You know what my theory on this book is, and I'm going to read the whole thing. So far, there's no new information to me in this book. You know why? Everything was covered by conservative media at the time. Everything was covered on this show. Everything was covered on Fox News and the New York Post and on Newsmax and the Daily Wire and the Daily Caller. Anybody who was looking for it could see it. These stories were all there. Occasionally, Jake Tapper adds a little note. Like, for example, he names names regarding who he thinks was running the show, who he believes, or at least he says, here's a story with this person, which shows how they were running the show. He does that. But you know what makes me mad about it? Jake Tapper was one of the lamestream media. A book like this does not come out this quickly unless you had this information at your disposal or you told ChatGPT or some other AI, go take all the conservative news stories about Joe Biden and put them into a book as if we're surprised by it. By the way, Mike, over the weekend, I'm going to ask one of the AI programs to do that and see if it comes up with something close to Jake Tapper's book. The speed at which this thing was released, the stories in it. So far, I've thrown it at my wall a couple times. Oh, by the way, it's become a joke around my house. I came home, I hadn't started reading it. I came home from synagogue on Friday night. My wife and my daughter have it there, and they're making fun of it. Not making fun of Joe Biden for being old or whatever, but they're like, can you believe this? We knew all this, and Jake Tapper's treating it as brand new information. Anybody with two eyes could see this. In fact, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said this just the other day.
I think, frankly, the former First Lady should certainly speak up about what she saw in regards to her husband and when she saw it and what she knew. Because I think anybody looking, again, at the videos and photo evidence of Joe Biden with your own eyes and a little bit of common sense can see this was a clear cover-up. And Jill Biden was certainly complicit in that cover-up. There's documentation, video evidence of her clearly shielding her husband away from the cameras. They were just on The View last week. She was saying everything is fine. She's still lying to the American people. She still thinks the American public are so stupid that they're going to believe her lies. And frankly, it's insulting, and she needs to answer for it.
Why did they bring out Joe Biden today? Or yesterday, whatever. It was today. Why did they bring out Joe Biden today? They're trying to reestablish confidence. And that, oh, no, don't believe anything Jake Tapper says. Now, normally I'd say don't believe anything Jake Tapper says, and the book's complete bunk. But the thing is, news outlets I trust, like Newsmax, like Fox, like the New York Post, like us, like myself, all covered this stuff in detail while it was happening. And they keep trying to say, no, don't believe your lying eyes. We all saw it. We all saw him melt down. We played clips on the show of the montages of him getting worse over time. This was elder abuse and one of the largest cover-ups in American history because we could all see it, and the media continued to lie. They were lying and lying and lying the entire time. Now, for me, I want to know what you guys think. You going to buy Jake Tapper's book? Do you believe Jake Tapper's book? Because for me, I'm mad I had to spend money on this thing because as a news person, I wanted to do it. And I may even have Jake Tapper on the show. Would you want him on the show? Should I invite him on the show? He's doing every interview with every conservative outlet. I'm not sure I want him because what I'm going to say the whole time is you knew all this. This story was reported by the way, that's what I've been doing, going story by story. After Sabbath is over, I go to my computer and I start Googling some of the stories which I've tabbed in the book. Every single one of them was covered by conservative media. Jake Tapper has filled in a couple details because apparently now there's some Democrats willing to talk. You want an example? The Pramila Jayapal story. Pramila Jayapal story, we covered it at the time. We didn't know Pramila Jayapal was involved. I can't remember if the New York Post did or not. But I remember when we covered it, here was the story. Mike, let's see how good your memory is about this.
Sure. Well, I also say, though, that's what inclined you to buy the book.
It is.
Like, that was the thing where, like, we talked about it. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, this Jake Tapper stuff. And then the Pramila Jayapal stuff started popping off, and it's like, all right, I'm buying it.
Right, because I want to know what other Washington stuff was in there. For example, there's a story about Adam Smith I see on the next page that I haven't read yet. And you better believe we're going to ask him to come on the show once I read that story if there's any there, which story it is. But the Pramila Jayapal story, we discussed it a week ago. Yeah, I got the book like the next day. So the Pramila Jayapal story is right after the disastrous debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, they needed to go on a PR tour to make everybody believe that Joe Biden was fit for office. This is one of the few times I was wrong in politics. So let's take you back to debate night. We watched it here in studio. And Mike, you remember who our special guest was? Jim Walsh.
Jim Walsh,
Washington State GOP. Right. He was in the neighborhood, and he was asking where I was watching the debate. I said, I'm watching in the studio. Come on by. We'll watch it together. And Jim Walsh and I are watching the debate and commenting how Donald Trump isn't doing the knockout blows on Joe Biden because we just assumed that the media would cover for Joe Biden again. And I said that at the time. I said, oh, watch, this was a disastrous debate performance, but the media is just going to cover for him. And they turned on him. They turned on him that night. CNN, MSNBC, everybody. And they turned on him because they go, oh, crap, we're going to lose. And we're going to lose badly. Remember the flurry of activity? So one of the things they did was they had a meeting with different parts of the Democrat Party trying to shore up support. So what happens is they have this meeting with the Progressive Caucus via Zoom, which was arranged by Pramila Jayapal because she's the chairwoman person, whatever, of the caucus, but also because she was part of the cover-up. Pramila Jayapal was part of the cover-up. And what happens? They have this Zoom meeting, and Joe Biden starts yelling at the progressives that he's more progressive than they are. He starts yelling at the squad that he's more progressive than they are. And Pramila Jayapal texts somebody from Team Biden. This is in the book. And what happens is the person from Team Biden hands him a letter that I'm paraphrasing here, basically says something like, sir, you have to calm down. You're sounding angry. He opens the letter and he reads it on the Zoom to the Progressive Caucus. And then Pramila Jayapal, on behalf of the Progressive Caucus, puts out a letter afterwards talking about how with it Joe Biden is, how spry Joe Biden is, how amazing they are, how he is, and how they can't wait to campaign for him. She was part of the cover-up. Tim Walz, part of the cover-up. You remember this one? Tim Walz, Kathy Hochul, and one other guy. I don't remember who it was, but it was definitely Tim Walz. They were outside the White House after meeting with Joe Biden, came out there to tell the media, oh, he's so spry, he's so sharp behind closed doors. That's when this lie came out. This was the talking point, right? We're not going to show you the spry guy. We're just going to talk about how sharp he is and the questions he asks. And didn't Karine Jean-Pierre go on The View like 2 weeks ago and say she never actually spoke to Joe Biden? So all those times, oh, I spoke to him. I was just in the Oval Office with him. Oh, I just met with him, and he asked the best questions. He's so sharp. It was a lie. Jake Tapper is going to sell a lot of books for hate reading because of people like me. But at the end of the day, I don't know if I should have him on the show because he's a liar. He participated in the cover-up. He knew all of it. Tell you what, we'll make this a public opinion poll. Do you think I should invite Jake Tapper to be on the show? Let me know what you think. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 for texts or for phone calls. Let me know what you think, because the whole time it's just going to be, you lied. And I'm going to pull up every story and say, this was covered, this was covered, this was covered. Why'd you dismiss it? Let me know what you think. Should we have Jake Tapper on the show? 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss. The Democrats are in complete disarray, including here in Washington. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your last chance to win 2 tickets to The Offspring and also the tickets to an advanced screening of Ballerina, the John Wick spinoff. So, always another reason to keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI. Left on your dial, always right on the issue. So you can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. This is rare for a Friday, but we got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
So do you remember when Washington State Superintendent of Public Instruction Chris Reykdal falsely claimed it's just not happening about women losing to biological males in girls' sports? Do you remember this? Don't remember it? We played it like 3 days ago.
And then our athletic association, which is actually not a state agency, so the Washington Intercollegiate Athletic Association, WIAA, it's not part of my office. It's an independent organization that runs. They, for almost 15 years, or maybe more than 15 years, have had an inclusionary policy for transgender youth, and it's gone, quite frankly, very well because it's about engaging parents and it's about schools understanding and then accommodating them with private spaces and all of that. And it isn't until this administration came and made it a national issue that suddenly people think there's a crisis and, you know, they have this false sense that kids are in the wrong locker rooms, which just does not happen. So that's the setup here, is that we've had a state for a decade and a half doing.
It's just not happening. It just doesn't happen. That's what you said. None of that's happening. Well, it just happened again. Riley Gaines just posted a video that says Logan Veronica Garcia just dominated the girls' 400-meter prelims at the 2A Washington State Championship meet. He will compete for the state title tomorrow. So when you watch this video, which is over on social media right now, it's not even a contest. The dude is far and away winning this race. Wait, I thought Chris Reykdal said it's just not happening. It literally just happened again. You're talking about, hang on, let me go back and watch this video one more time. I want to count the seconds between his finish and everybody else's. All right, 1, 2, 3. A 3-second advantage over these girls. That is huge in the running world. 3 seconds ahead of them? Oh, wait a second, that's just over the one who's in first place. There's a whole bunch more behind them. And this is clearly a guy. You're looking at how they run. You're not fooling anybody, dude. I mean, look, you guys got self-esteem problems because you're not good and can't compete with the boy athletes. Why do you need to take that out on the girls? Find something else. I don't know what the sport is. Look, there comes a time in every boy's life when he realizes he's never going to be a professional baseball player. That came from me pretty young. But you have to keep doing this. This is the nonsense that will keep happening. Now, I have a question. Riley Gaines, very public person, posted this video. I have a question. Is the Trump administration going to come down like a ton of bricks on the WIAA, which I believe they should? And here's another question about that. They're already going after the superintendent of public instruction. Are they going to use this as an example? Now, the problem for the WIAA is they caved to Chris Reykdal. What they should have said instead is, Trump's got our back. The feds have our back. We're going against Reykdal. We're going against Brown because we're going to do the right thing. And you know who would have supported them? All of us. All of us. Because the small minority of people who think this is okay, they are small, but they are loud. There are a lot more common sense people. Here's what's going to happen now. A lot more people are going to pull their kids out of the public schools and put them in private school, put them in homeschooling, do all this other stuff because of nonsense like this. They're going to compete in other leagues. This is now going to be a national news story on over the weekend. Just wait for it. It will be, because you're going to get responses from the Trump administration. They're going to start weighing in on this. It's going to be all over Fox News. Guaranteed. This thing just broke just a few minutes ago. Guaranteed this is now going to be an absolutely huge news story in conservative world. Democrats will ignore it. Democrats will completely ignore it. Is that going to be enough pressure? But you literally had Chris Reykdal saying it just doesn't happen. Well, dude, it just did happen again. How many times has he said, oh, it just doesn't happen, and it happened time and time again? I can think of 4 off the top of my head. Examples like this, and there's a whole lot more. This is how you plan on getting the common sense, the normies back into your party? This is your big plan? This is how you're going to do it? Boys can be girls. Boys can compete in girls' sports. This is the big plan we discussed the other day. The Democrats have spent over $20 million. They have a line on them, $20 million budget, to try and figure out why young men don't vote for them anymore. Perhaps it's things like this. These are 80-20 issues, and you guys are on the wrong side. If a boy believes he's a girl, then you know what you do? You get them mental health to figure out what's going on that's wrong. We had Ari, the detransitioner, on the show yesterday. I'll put that interview up over the weekend in podcast or wherever else we put it on social media, so that way if you guys missed it, you can hear it. Who was talking about they were basically brainwashed by the trans industrial complex. That's basically what happened to them. And now Ari has had an irreversible surgery that can never be undone. Can never be undone. I felt so bad for him while we were talking. I felt awful for him. His entire life has been changed, has been altered because of this. This is ridiculous. This party, the Democrats, believe that that's the way to go, which is beyond horrible and beyond wrong. And think about the girls in this race. How many of those girls are seniors? And this was supposed to be their last race of the year. At least if you lose to another girl, all right, you gave it your all and you lost, but this was stolen from you. Somebody cheated and took this from you. You know, my daughter's not so into sports. She plays the obligatory sports, with the one she has to do for credit, right? But I just think about, what if she got hurt because she's doing something for credit and she's playing one of these sports against a biological male? She doesn't even go to the public school. She goes to private school, but this is going to happen in the private. It has already happened in some of these leagues, and some of them compete at the national level. What if she gets hurt because she's just doing it for credit? Forget about taking away a scholarship or anything else. The injuries are real. The injuries have happened, and my daughter's not very athletic. And what if she ends up competing against one of these people who is delusional, who has mental health problems and was put there? You know, I hope a whole bunch of these girls just sue the hell out of the WIAA, Chris Rakedal, Nick Brown, Turd Ferguson, all of them. That's the only way this is going to be settled, by the courts. Unfortunately, Washington State has lost its mind, lost its flipping mind, that we keep doing this time and time again. It has to stop. It has to stop. When we come back, more insanity out of Portland, my friends. You won't believe what's going on there now. Tina Kotek might be agreeing with us. Wait, what? That can't be right. We'll discuss it when we come back with our friend Lars Larson. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. One of my favorite things about working here on Talk Radio 570 KVI is every single week I get to talk to my buddy Lars Larson. Lars, I'm just going to reflect for a minute here, is that I remember when I used to drive around listening to you, and now I get to be friends with you, which is even more fun. But I will say this, is that I was reading something you sent me, your Northwest Nonsense monologue about Tina Kotek, where she's finally waking up to what's actually causing the housing crisis.
Well, she's maybe waking up because for decades, literally, I've said government is the cause of the crisis. I mean, all the other elements that are present anywhere else in America, labor, materials, land, are all present here in the Northwest. And in the state of Oregon, we have a high housing crisis. Kotek literally campaigned saying, I will double the amount of housing that's built. Now, of course, government, thank God, does not build most of the housing. It's built by the private sector, but government gets in the way. And so when you have other states that are capable of having housing built by private companies who will provide it either for sale or for rent, and then the government comes in and slaps down a whole bunch of rules, and they go the whole gamut, all the way from whether or not you can build on a piece of land, the system development charges that add to the cost. In Los Angeles, for example, SDCs add 25% of the cost. So $1 million house down there is $250,000 worth of government red tape that you have to pay for before you build. So all of a sudden, Kotek comes to Portland, sits down with the mayor, and says, hey, let's clear some of this government bureaucracy out of the way. Just say, let's assume the people who build housing actually know how to build it better than bureaucrats who sit in an office somewhere, and let's start approving a lot of these plans. I think she's frankly too late, because already you've seen housing construction the year she campaigned for governor was 18,000 units a year. It dropped then to 15 to 11, or it's expected to finish this year at 11,000. Not quite half of what it was when she came in and promised to double it to more than 36,000. So she's trying to say, can we put a Band-Aid on this and maybe get a temporary boost in housing construction? But you're going to need that boost to go on for probably a decade to get the region anywhere close to catching up to the demand. And as long as supply is less than demand, prices, both for rentals and for sale, are going to go way out of sight, which is what they've done.
That's something that a lot of people aren't tracking right now, is because of interest rates being where they are, because of the economy still on the rebound, and because inflation is coming down, but it's not there yet. Buying a house right now is still very, very expensive. So right now, sellers outnumber buyers. As you said, you have a supply and demand issue, which means you're asking these developers to build things hoping that in the future they're going to make money on them. This isn't going to be a quick turnaround, especially not with the Fed kind of ignoring what's going on with the economy and not lowering interest rates the way they should be doing them.
Well, and think about this. You just mentioned a key part of that, and that is you have buyers who say, I'd love to buy a house. I can't in today's economy. I can't with the uncertainty. I can't with the interest rates. So they stay in the rental pool. And you say, well, what happens then? Well, that drives rents even higher for the people who are in the rental pool indefinitely. They may be renting and say, I'm happy renting, I want to stay over here, but that drives prices up. And then both Oregon and Washington have tried to address that by saying, we'll just dictate that you can't raise the rents. The problem is for the people who own the properties. I was a landlord a long time ago, small landlord. I had a duplex, and I know what the regulations do to you. So when you come in and say you can't demand a high deposit, you have to let the tenants sometimes destroy the unit. You can't kick them out if they don't pay, and you can't recover your costs. And then government comes along and says your property taxes are up, your utility bills are up, maintenance costs are up. We've raised the minimum wages, so the maintenance costs are up, but you can't recover that money. Now that means you're not getting people saying, let's build apartments in the Northwest. So that keeps the apartment rents high and unavailable, and you can't build a house because of all the government regulations on that side. Government is the problem.
Let's take my family for a minute. Lars, I don't think you and I have ever discussed this before, but my family has holdings in Seattle in real estate that they've had for over a century. Over a century they've been here for, and they have sold everything. almost everything is gone. There's very little
Mark,
left because being a landlord here is an absolute nightmare. And most people don't realize that all this insanity does with the rent control and everything else is reduce the supply of housing. So Kotek doing this, I think you're right. I think it's too little, too late. And the problem is you need to do it for a very long period of time and you need to outlast the economy. So now what you're asking is everybody you put these huge burdens on, hey guys, can you build this thing and then hold on to it for a few years and hope your investment eventually pays off? I don't think a lot of people are going to take her up on that.
and by the way, Ari, just in case people say, Lars, you're talking theory, that doesn't work in practice. Let me tell you what's actually happened in one major market, San Antonio, Texas. Now, they had some crazy regulations as well. And what happened about 3 years ago when the city of San Antonio said, this is nuts, we've got to let people build houses. And they cleared a lot of those regulations out of the way. Now, that doesn't mean they're building unsafe houses with bad electricity and bad plumbing and all that. They just cleared all the unnecessary crap out of the way. Do you know that home purchase prices have actually not only not gone up in San Antonio, they've gone down, even though there's still demand because the people who build houses have started building. They've said, take the rules off. We can go in there and build lots and lots of housing. So prices have actually gone down. Imagine if that happened in Portland and Seattle.
Yeah, that would change everything, but unfortunately, it's not going to happen. And especially, you might be about to have a problem here in Seattle and Washington specifically if companies start moving out because of all these new taxes they just got hit with. Because people don't need to move here to work for Amazon anymore. My brother works for Amazon. He lives in Long Island, New York. I don't think he needs to come here for that. Lars Larson, you can catch his show every single weekday from 12 to 3 right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Lars, thanks so much for being with us, buddy. You have a great weekend.
Always a pleasure, Ari. Thank you.
Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win $50 gift card, and your last chance to win tickets to the Offspring and advanced screening of Ballerina. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode, another amazing week of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And just a programming note for everybody. I'm going to be offline for Monday and Tuesday for a Jewish holiday. It's a Jewish holiday of Shavuot. But don't worry, Mike will be here. We're going to have fantabulous prizes. You also get to hear my review of The Karate Kid on Monday, which I went to see this week with young Zach. So you get to hear that. Mike's going to have 2 days of awesomeness planned for you. So don't worry about that. So if I'm not responding to your stuff, that's why. I will be back online late Tuesday night. I'll be around Sunday, of course, because I'm going to be out at the Roy Pioneer Rodeo this weekend, as will the entire KVI team. So, reminder to show up early because the gates open at 11 a.m. Recommend you get there around that time to make sure you get in. The show itself starts at 1:30. Roy Pioneer radio events include the NPRA Riders for Bareback Broncs, Saddle Broncs, Bulls, Wild Cow Milking, Barrel Races, Team Roping, Tie-Down Roping, and Steer Wrestling. We also have a drill team attend each rodeo, as well as a rodeo royalty and other different acts to keep things exciting for everybody. Plus, we'll be cranking the Hank with our friends over at 101.5 Hank FM. You get to meet the KVI crew both days. So Mike and Zach and Mr. KVI himself will be there on Saturday. I'll be there on Sunday along with the morning ride crew, Phil and Zach. So make sure you come on out to the Roy Rodeo. And also, just for everybody there, I will wear my poser boots and hat for the show, along with all my cowboy accoutrement. Now, you know I'm not a cowboy because I just used the word accoutrement. But it does look kind of authentic. We'll just put it that way. I don't look like Marty in Back to the Future 3 when Doc dresses him. I say it looks a little bit better than that, but you're going to know which one's me. Let's just put it that way. Mike's shaking his head over there.
Oh, I'm nodding enthusiastically. I will come dressed as Big Mike.
There you go. Fantastic.
Free parking at the Roy Rodeo, by the way, and they also got food and a beer garden and souvenir stand, hoodies, shirts, and whatnot. It's I've never been to the Roy Rodeo before, and from what I understand from our team's experience there last year, we're like, no, we need to push chips in on this year. It's going to be a lot of fun, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I hear a rumor that there may or may not be an after party on Saturday as well at the roundup. So I've been told I have to show up to that. So I will be there.
I forgot to ask Zach.
Yeah.
Is it like a concrete parking lot or is it like a dirt parking lot?
I would imagine it's a dirt lot.
I would imagine so too. Okay, so that means I'm bringing the EV and not the Batmobile because that's 4-wheel drive. That's why I got to know what I'm bringing.
Yes.
That's why. I don't mean that,
I don't think you need 4-wheel drive to
Well, no, it's not a matter of that. It's a matter of something could go. Those are like more shielded on the bottom.
Oh, sure,
whereas with the Batmobile, a rock goes through that oil pan and you are done. That is not meant for anything like that.
It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Just have normal cars, dude.
What fun is that? I had normal cars for years. I don't want that.
I had plenty of fun with my normal cars. I do 100 miles an hour in the tunnel. It's fun.
That's a fair point. Yes, exactly right. Oh, by the way, on the text line, you guys are vicious about Jake Tapper.
Oh, it's been a good day on the text line.
It really has. So Allison Olympia says, no, don't have him on your show because he's a 100% opportunist. He licks his finger to see which opinion he should have. First he was in denial. Now he's not all for book sales. Now, there is a caveat to this. Everybody who's ripping him says you can have him on as long as you tear him a new one, basically, is what they're saying. So here, this one from Randolph in Ravensdale. He says, Ari, for the love of God, whom we both love, please don't do this to us. No, Jake. No. Ron says, hi, Ari. He just continued to lie. It would be nice to grill him. You could have him on, sign your book, and then give it back to him. That's kind of funny. Rocky says, no Tapper. Very dishonest. Watch him on Piers Morgan the other day. Total BS. Piers should have squished a grapefruit into his face. Wow, you guys are harsh. Harsh. I do love it, though. It's funny. Daniel in Tacoma says, if you have him on, Jake Tapper will just dance around the question and excuse it on the need of his job security. Robin Lakewood, fake yapper, yes. Hey, Jake, are you deaf, blind, or just dumb and lying? Which is, wow. Wow, you guys are harsh today. Yeah, I'm loving it, though. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit MadronaFinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, oh no, wait, I'm just kidding. We got 2 more fantabulous prizes today. I should know this from reading these things. I'm just on an autopilot because it's a Friday. We got 2 tickets to an advanced screening of Ballerina, which takes place during the events of John Wick Chapter 3. The film follows a trained assassin played by Ana de Armas, who sets out to seek revenge after her father's death. Ballerina is in theaters on June 6. Now, last but certainly not least, we're giving away 2 tickets to The Offspring at the White River Amphitheater on September 3rd. Countdown is on. Get $30 concert tickets to select shows at the White River Amphitheater, Chateau Ste. Michelle, and The Gorge on sale now. Make it a summer of live music with your $30 ticket to summer. KVI has your chance to win tickets to The Offspring Supercharged Worldwide in 25 tour at the White River Amphitheater with Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory on September 3rd. Get your tickets to The Offspring and your tickets to summer at livenation.com/ticket-to-summer. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, 2 tickets to an advanced screening of Ballerina, and 2 tickets to The Offspring at White River Amphitheater on September 3rd. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, my friends, that's going to do it for us this week, but fear not, we'll be back next week with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 5.